can't just be, he's a bully, he's a piece of shit, I hate him. Why is he talking about this publicly? If you're gonna come out and say that you have a really deep-seated hatred for one of the two people running for president, if you're gonna express yourself about it and alienate 50% of the country, which it seems like it is, you're gonna have to do better than that. You should have some specific things. Like he did some real estate deals with people in New York. Let me tell you what he did to fucking blow.
I would love to hear it.
He did this and that.
Robert De Niro's 29-year-old child, Aaron, has come out as transgender. When the press asked her for comment, she said, "You talking to they, them?" Thank you.
Our modern age is an age of public anger. It is the roaring engine of our social media, the lifeblood of our cable news, and the dominant emotional currency of our political discourse. But in this crowded arena of performative fury, what makes the rage of Robert De Niro so particularly captivating and, for many, so profoundly disappointing? This is, after all, a man who built a legendary career on the artistic mastery of rage. He was the poet laureate of cinematic fury, a man who could channel the most terrifying and complex human anger into transcendent art. And yet, the man we see today seems to be a vessel for a very different kind of anger. A personal, political, and seemingly uncontrolled fury that has come to define his public persona. This script is not another simple recounting of his outbursts. It is an investigation, an attempt to understand the anatomy of his rage. We will dissect its origins, its amplifiers, and its consequences. This is a deep dive into the very nature of celebrity, obsession, and the tragic spectacle of a great artist, seemingly consumed by his own fury.
Nothing I like more on a Sunday than some old guy spewing F-bombs.
This guy should not be president, period.
And when you say that, folks on Fox come after you. I remember the Tonys when he got up there and cursed. A lot of of you. Okay, well, you know, this is cable, so it's not an FCC violation, but it is still a Sunday morning.
That was Bobby De Niro promoting his new movie, Grumpy Old Man 7, More Strained Peas.
To understand the tragedy of Robert De Niro's current public anger, we must first appreciate the genius of his artistic on-screen rage. For decades, he wasn't just an actor who could play angry. He was a master conductor of human fury in all its forms. The anger in his classic performances was never simple. It was a tool, a lens through which he revealed the deepest truths about his characters. Consider Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver. His rage was not the loud, explosive anger of a simple villain. It was the quiet, simmering, and deeply unsettling rage of the lonely and the alienated. It was the anger of a man who feels invisible, a slow-burning fuse that culminates in a terrifying explosion of violence. De Niro's performance forces us to look at a character we would normally cross the street to avoid and makes us uncomfortably understand the origins of his madness. His anger was a mirror held up to the decay of a city and a society.
And De Niro, how stupid is he without a script? Isn't that amazing? I used to think, wow, that guy's brilliant. But once you take the words away from him, he is so stupid. Then when he goes, impeachment will make America great again, and everybody's, ha ha. How intellectually deprived he is. He's a coke-addled simpleton, you know, without a script. It is hysterical.
Does he have a big coke problem?
No, I just read that article that you sent me about the last nights of John Belushi and how De Niro was there and just basically partied with him and then split. And it's just like, now I just think of him as a really stupid guy.
Then there is the volcanic, self-destructive rage of Jake LaMotta in Raging Bull. This was a different beast entirely. It was a primal, insecure, and deeply pathetic anger, fueled by jealousy and an inability to articulate any other emotion. De Niro's physical transformation for the role is legendary, but his emotional transformation was even more profound. He showed us how a man's rage could be both his greatest weapon inside the boxing ring and the very thing that destroyed every meaningful relationship outside of it. It was not a rage to be admired, but a rage to be pitied. The desperate, lashing out of a man trapped in a prison of his own making. In Goodfellas, his portrayal of Jimmy Conway offered yet another shade of fury, the cold, paranoid, and ruthlessly pragmatic anger of a career criminal. When Jimmy decides to eliminate his partners after the Lufthansa heist, his rage is not hot. It is ice cold. It is the anger of a predator, a chillingly rational decision to solve a business problem through violence. In all these iconic roles, De Niro's anger was a finely tuned instrument. It was controlled, it was nuanced, and it always served the story and the character. This is the crucial baseline, the standard against which his current public fury must be measured.
Oh, Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Now, Kurt's convinced that Robert De Niro's on some kind of Epstein list or some kind of thing like that, and then he's afraid that if Trump does get power, he's going to expose him, and he is actually going to come at him.
Of course Kurt thinks
That's
that.
what Kurt thinks that.
Kurt thinks that about every fucking thing that happens in the world.
I think Robert De Niro's just got Trump derangement syndrome.
I think he's old, too. There's a thing about old men.
And
they want to yell at everybody.
And he's completely... Did you see when he went and gave that speech outside of the trial? That was bizarre.
Who told him that was a good idea?
And then he starts yelling at regular people.
The controlled, artistic rage of his past now stands in stark, almost shocking contrast to the singular, all-consuming political obsession that defines his present. To understand this transformation, we must analyze the psychological phenomenon that critics have controversially labeled Trump derangement syndrome. Setting aside the political baggage of the term itself, it can be seen as a framework for understanding what happens when a public figure's identity becomes completely consumed by their opposition to a single political entity. It describes a state where all events, all issues, and all interactions are viewed through the single, distorting lens of this one obsession. Robert De Niro has, fairly or unfairly, become the poster child for this phenomenon.
Robert De Niro, there's something about being a star where you think your opinion's more important than anybody else's, and you can go give a press conference, and he obviously has been very vocal from 2016 that he hates Trump for whatever reason. Maybe they have some personal thing.
You think Trump ever threw a punch himself or took one? This guy who ran and hid in the White House bunker when there were protesters outside? No way.
Now he's like holding press conferences. Now everyone's heckling him everywhere he goes.
That's so bad.
Like instead of just being this cranky old liberal, now you're this guy that is yelling at other people that are Trump supporters, and they're yelling at you. Like you've opened yourself up to this nonsense. Why?
Trying to be gentlemen in this world. The Democrats, you are gangsters. You are gangsters.
His public statements are a case study in this kind of singular focus. His critiques are rarely about specific policies, legislative debates, or nuanced ideological differences. Instead, they are intensely personal, emotional, and almost exclusively centered on the character of one man. His vocabulary devolves into simple, profane declarations of hatred. His analysis is not political, it is personal. This psychological state is characterized by a loss of perspective and proportion. Every political disagreement becomes an existential battle between good and evil. The opponent is no longer just a political rival with different ideas. They are a monster, a clown, a figure of almost mythical evil. This is the language De Niro now uses, and it reveals a mindset where the complexities of governance have been replaced by a simple, almost childlike, moral binary. This obsession appears to have hijacked his public persona, replacing the thoughtful, nuanced artist with a one-dimensional political activist whose entire platform is built on the foundation of his own animosity.
Do you think that's starting to affect Hollywood a little bit, to where now if you look at the most successful people, it is the realest people? You know, people might not even like, say, a Donald Trump, but people are gravitated because they think, hey, man, this is him. This is real.
I think the best thing for people in Hollywood that are entrenched in that world is to shut the fuck up. Because as soon as they start talking, people as soon as Robert De Niro starts talking, I'm like, Jesus, get that fucking microphone away from him so I can enjoy Taxi Driver.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I don't want to hear. I love De Niro. I love those mob movies. It's like,
I don't want to hear him that he's a moron. I don't want to hear him talking about politics and about Trump supporters, and just shut the fuck up, man.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't think this through. Like, this is, and he's getting yelled at. He's doing an outside press conference. Like, Robert, you're 80 years old. Don't ruin this thing.
This intense political obsession is almost certainly incubated and amplified by the social and professional environment in which De Niro operates, the celebrity echo chamber. It is crucial to understand that in the elite circles of Hollywood and the New York art scene, the political views De Niro expresses are not controversial. They are the overwhelming consensus. This is a world of extreme political uniformity, where expressing intense opposition to Donald Trump is not just an accepted opinion. It is a form of social currency, a powerful signal of one's virtue and belonging within the tribe. Imagine attending dinner parties, charity galas, and film sets where virtually everyone you interact with shares your exact political worldview and emotional outrage. In such an environment, your own views are not just validated, they are magnified. Your anger feels not just righteous, but entirely rational and universally shared.
This is what moms call bad language, or what producers call great TV. The plan, get an irrational figure at peak derangement and goad him into snapping. It's like cabaret for the chronically obsessed. It's like when you were a kid and would pull wheelies on Old Man Johnson's front yard. Finally, he just cracks. He's holding a spatula, chasing you around in his open robe. That's the De Niro CNN business model in a nutshell. Money for nothing and clicks for free. Of course, the real story is how accusations of Trump's nutty behavior always ends up with the accusers acting nuttier. De Niro calls Trump crazy as he goes crazier.
This creates a powerful psychological feedback loop. When De Niro goes on television and delivers one of his furious rants, he is likely met with praise and agreement from his entire social and professional circle. This positive reinforcement from his in-group would make him feel like he is speaking a powerful truth to the nation, when in fact, he is primarily speaking to and for his own insulated tribe. The echo chamber makes it nearly impossible to develop an understanding of, or empathy for, the perspectives of the millions of people who disagree with him. It fosters a sense of moral certainty that can easily curdle into self-righteousness and a profound disconnect from the country as a whole. His anger, therefore, is likely not just a personal feeling, but a shared, communal emotion within his bubble, an emotion that is constantly nurtured and encouraged.
Business is just being a real person talking shit.
Yeah.
The professional shit talkers.
Yeah.
You know, having fun, being silly, talking shit about things. And actors are not that. They're weird people, man. And the one thing that's harming them in Hollywood is that they get exposed for being who they really are. And a lot of these people that pretend to be all, you know, clean cut and you find out they're into freaky shit. And, you know, it's like...
And it's easier to expose stuff now because social...
Compounding this political obsession and the effects of the echo chamber is another powerful and perhaps more sensitive factor: the psychology of aging and perceived irrelevance. This is what can be diagnosed as the get off my lawn syndrome. For a man like Robert De Niro, who spent the better part of 4 decades at the absolute epicenter of American culture, the natural process of aging comes with a unique set of psychological challenges. He is no longer the young, dangerous, and transformative force he once was. He is now a legacy figure, an elder statesman. For some, this transition is a graceful one. For others, it can be a source of deep frustration. There can be an anger that comes with seeing the world change in ways one doesn't like or control, a frustration that comes from feeling one's influence wane.
It's no longer down with Trump, it's Trump.
It kills me. Talk about persuasive. Really, I was on the fence about Trump, but then I decided to really listen to one of the great generational leaders of American pop culture. And the clenched fists at the end, that really drove it home. It looked like he was pressing a 2-pound weight in a Jenny Craig commercial.
Oh, my God.
Look at it again. It's so cute. It's like he found out the restaurant serves Jell-O.
De Niro's anger can be seen in part as the roar of an aging lion, frustrated that the younger generations are not listening to his wisdom. His style of communication, loud, declarative, and demanding of respect, is characteristic of a generation that is used to being the dominant voice in the cultural conversation. However, he is now operating in a world that communicates through memes, irony, and a deep-seated skepticism of authority, no matter how legendary. His old methods of commanding a room no longer work, and this failure to connect may be fueling a cycle of frustration and even louder, angrier pronouncements. It is the rage of a man who feels he has earned the right to be heard, clashing with a world that no longer grants that right automatically.
Old, and when old people are tired and cranky, they just want everyone to listen to them, and they don't have time to have a calm conversation. And you state out your opinion, I'll state my opinion. Let's see where we have common ground. Hey, get off my lawn! And that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. He's being this old grumpy man that is so lost that he thinks it's a good idea to stand in front of a bunch of people on the street and give a speech on camera about how bad Donald Trump is. With all the shit that's going in the world.
That I know.
All the craziness of the world.
Right now, the guy you're voting for.
This generational and cultural clash is perfectly illustrated by the reaction De Niro receives from the new hecklers of the modern town square, the new media figures like Joe Rogan and Greg Gutfeld. De Niro came of age in an era of old media, where major networks and legacy newspapers treated cultural icons like him with a certain level of deference and respect. An interview with Robert De Niro was a major event, and the tone was almost always reverential. That world is gone. The new media landscape, dominated by podcasts, streaming shows, and satirical news programs, operates by a completely different set of rules. It is a world that not only lacks deference, but is often actively hostile to the establishment.
Even a fair fight. De Niro storms in with righteous fury, and Rogan just raises an eyebrow like, "You good, Grandpa?" It's like watching an angry squirrel scream at a bear. Entertaining? Absolutely. Threatening? Not even close. Just a whole lot of squeaking and misplaced bravado.
Resistance had run out of script. It was just another role without dialogue, so he had to improvise. But I handed to CNN. It got me to watch, and by having it on the 5, it quadrupled their audience. Congrats to Stelter and CNN for that 1 minute. You had a hit. So, Dana, shall I quote Scott Adams?
Oh, yeah, I was thirsty.
Okay.
Drink.
He claims that because we've entered a new phase where not liking Trump is just a lifestyle. So you're a lifestyle resistor because when you
don't even have to have a reason.
Yeah. So when he kept saying why, he's just going F him.
It's like when you.
Figures like Rogan and Gutfeld have built their empires by refusing to bow to legacy institutions and icons. They represent a paradigm shift where legacy status grants zero immunity from criticism or mockery. When De Niro unleashes one of his rants, he is met not with respectful disagreement, but with Rogan's deadpan disbelief or Gutfeld's smirking sarcasm. De Niro, accustomed to being the most powerful and intimidating person in any room, seems utterly incapable of handling this new form of public ridicule. His only response is to get angrier, which in turn provides his new antagonist with even more material. It is a vicious cycle. He is a king from an old empire who has discovered that his royal proclamations are being openly mocked by the unruly citizens of a new republic, and he simply does not know what to do other than shout louder.
He's like, fuck you, you're a gangster. Go fuck you.
Like, it's crazy that that's the guy from Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
You know what also I think those guys have no friends. I think the only friends they have are Hollywood phonies. And so you're in this weird world where everybody you talk to is a phony, and you become a phony, and everyone's a phony, and your grasp on reality is very slippery, and your eyes are going.
This leads to the final crucial component in our anatomy of his rage, the actor's ultimate nightmare. The entire craft of an actor is built on a sacred contract with the audience. The actor performs, and the audience, in turn, agrees to be captivated, to listen, to feel the emotions the actor is projecting. For his entire career, when Robert De Niro performed, the world paid serious, rapt attention. But now, when he performs his political role, half of the country breaks that contract. They don't just disagree with him, they dismiss him, they ignore him, or perhaps worst of all for a serious artist, they laugh at him. Imagine the deep, professional frustration of a master performer delivering what he believes to be the most important performance of his life, a passionate plea for the soul of his nation, only to have a huge portion of the audience mock him as a clown. This could be, for a man like De Niro, the ultimate source of his escalating fury. He is giving the political performance of a lifetime, and it's failing to land. When his serious, dramatic delivery is met with mockery, his only instinct may be to double down, to get louder, to project more forcefully in a desperate attempt to compel the audience to take him seriously. This creates another vicious cycle. The more he is ignored or mocked, the angrier he gets, and the angrier he gets, the more he is ignored or mocked. It is the existential crisis of a great actor who has lost half his audience. In the final, sobering analysis, the public rage of Robert De Niro is not a simple phenomenon. It is a complex, tragic cocktail of genuine political passion, distorted by the powerful psychological effects of the celebrity echo chamber, compounded by the anxieties of aging and the loss of cultural centrality, and fueled by the deep professional frustration of an actor whose most passionate performance is failing to connect with its intended audience. His story is a powerful cautionary tale, a vivid illustration of what can happen when art and politics become so toxically intertwined. When an artist celebrated for his masterful portrayal of fictional rage becomes utterly consumed by a real, personal one, does the man ultimately destroy the artist? The evidence in this case is troubling. The nuance, complexity, and quiet power that defined his greatest works have been replaced by the loud, simplistic, and repetitive nature of his public pronouncements. And perhaps the greatest loss is for us, the audience. What does our culture lose when one of its greatest and most subtle actors decides to become just another angry, loud voice in an already deafening crowd? We are left to wonder what future generations will see when they look back on his monumental career. Will they see the artist, or will they see the activist? Will they remember the quiet, coiled power of the performer, or the loud, unfocused fury of the pundit? The tragedy of Robert De Niro may be that the final angry act of his public life threatens to overshadow the half-century of artistic genius that preceded it.